Hello everyone, Alka's back on Alka's learning program. Today we are going to do the story Deep Waters for class 12th English. Deep Waters is a beautiful story with a wonderful message to the students. So let's see what it contains. Who has written it? What does it teach us? Let's find out. Deep Waters is written by William Douglas. He was born in Minnesota. He earned his Bachelor of Arts in English and Economics, and he spent 2 years teaching high school in Yakima. He pursued his legal career and he met Franklin D. Roosevelt at Yale and became an advisor and a friend to the president. Douglas was a leading advocate of individual rights. This story is an excerpt from Of Men and Mountains, written by William Douglas. It reveals how a young boy named William Douglas nearly had a drowning experience at the swimming pool. It talks about the fear of water and how he finally overcame it. It's an autobiographical part which has been selected for us. The story starts telling us about his experience. When he was 10 or 11 years old, he decided to learn to swim. So he picked up the YMCA pool. The YMCA pool was at River Yakima and it offered him the opportunity. The River Yakima was treacherous. His mother kept reminding him and warning him against it. And she kept the memories fresh about the details of each drowning experience told to him. The YMCA pool was safe. It was 2 to 3 feet deep at the shallow end and 9 feet deep at the other end. William Douglas hated to walk naked and to show his skinny legs, but he subdued his pride. From the beginning, he had an aversion to water. This aversion started when he was 3 to 4 years old. His father took him to the California beach, and where he and his father both were surfing. He hung to his father's neck, but yet the waves knocked him down and swept over him. He was buried in the water. His breath was gone and he was totally frightened. His father laughed, but he was afraid. Then the childish fear stirred again when he came to the YMCA pool. He waited for his friends. He would try to ape his friends to learn to swim. But before he could learn to swim, a misadventure took place. Now, this misadventure is an important question from this chapter. It's a 5-marker. So, when he was sitting at the pool, at the side of the pool, waiting for his friends and looking at his other friends to learn, something mischievous happened. The pool was quiet. Waters were still. It had tiled bottoms and it was as clean as a bathtub. He was sitting there and all of a sudden a bruiser of a boy who was a beautiful specimen of masculine man showing rippled muscles, and he shouted, "Hey skinny, how would you like to be ducked?" With this dialogue, he picked him up and he ducked him into the waters towards the deep end. Douglas landed in a sitting position. He swallowed the water and once to the bottom. He was frightened, but yet not frightened out of his wits. He thought he'll make a big jump and he would come back and would be safe. But when he was going down, it was a long way. The 9 feet seemed like 90 feet. His lungs were ready to burst. He summoned all his strength. He thought he'll make a great spring, like a cork to the surface. But nothing happened. The water had a dirty yellow tinge. He tried to clutch something, but only thing he could clutch was water. He was suffocating. His eyes and nose came out of the water, but not his mouth. He flailed at the surface of the water, swallowed and choked. He tried to bring his legs up, but they hung as dead weights, paralyzed and rigid. His lungs were aching, his head was throbbing. And then he remembered the strategy. He thought he'll spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface. He tried, but in vain. He went down and down endlessly. He opened his eyes. Nothing but yellow, dirty water. Sheer stark terror seized him. The terror that knows no understanding. The terror that knows no control. Terror that no one can understand who has not experienced it. He was shrieking under the water, but his screams were frozen in his throat. And then, amidst the terror, came a touch of reason. He remembered to jump when he hit the bottoms. He felt the tiles, but the jump made no difference. Nothing but water, a mass of yellow water. He shook and trembled with fright. He tried to call for help, to call his mother, but nothing happened. Everything was in vain. The third time he tried again, the yellowish light was gone. He felt relaxed. His legs felt limp. A blackness swept over his brain. It wiped out the fear. It wiped out the terror. He felt drowsy. He felt like as if he's wanting to sleep. He felt as if he was in the tender arms of his mother. And he felt that now I must go to sleep. He had crossed to oblivion. The curtain of his life fell, and the next moment that he could recall was he was lying on the side of the pool. The boy who had pushed him, the chap who had fished him, the bruiser boy, he said, I was only fooling. And somebody said, the kid nearly died. We all right now, let's carry him to the locker room. Dear friends, we must remember many a time we try to play pranks with our friends. But pranks should not cost the life of the people. Please remember that. Now that he was lying on the pool, they took him to the locker room. For many days, this fear kept attacking him. He felt weak and trembling. He couldn't eat. Even the slightest exertion upset him. And this fear ruined his fishing trips. It deprived him of all the canoeing, boating, and swimming. Finally, once again he gathered that courage and he thought that I learned to swim. But this time, with the help of an instructor. So, in the month of October, he appointed an instructor. The instructor used to teach him 5 hours, 5 days a week, an hour every day. He used the pulley, the rope, overhead cables, and he learned. He taught him, rather, the instructor taught him to go back and front. A bit of panic seized him many a time, but could not ruin him this time. The instructor taught him bit by bit. He taught him to inhale and exhale. He taught him to put his face under the water and exhale, and to raise his nose and inhale. Bit by bit, he started shedding the fear. He learned to kick with his legs. Initially, the legs refused to work, but piece by piece, the instructor built him a swimmer. Now, this is another important question from this chapter. How did the instructor build William Douglas a swimmer? 5 marker. And then, in the month of April, the instructor said, now that you can swim, dive off and swim the length of the pool, crawl strokes. So he learned all the strokes, the crawl, the breaststroke, the side stroke, the backstroke. And he would say, well, Mr. Terror, what do you think you can do to me? See, he had gathered all the courage. And then he went up the Titan to Concord Meadows, up the Cornered Creek, the Trail to Mead Glacier, and side by side to the Warm Lake. Tiny visitors did come to him, but he overcame them. And finally he shouted with joy, and Gilbert Peak returned the echo. That there is terror. Now it is something very important from this chapter. It says that the experience had a deep meaning for him, as only those who know the stark terror and conquer it can appreciate it. It is said that success sounds sweetest to those who never succeed. In the same way, it is said that in death there is peace. There is terror only in the fear of death, as Roosevelt knew when he said, all we have to fear is the fear itself. So, dear friends, face the fear and the fear will disappear. Be a risk taker in his life. No records are ever made unless people break the old records. They take up the risks and make their own new records. So, with this, we come to an end. Let us recapitulate quickly and see what the story is about. So, we have learned about the desire of learning, the experience at the California beach, the YMCA, the misadventure, how he tried and all was in vain. Then we have read about the stark fear that seized him, how his trips, all the fishing trips were ruined. Then we also learned about how the instructor built him into a swimmer. And finally, that is his own courage and all with the help of the instructor, how he became a swimmer himself. The will to live is stronger than the fear of death. That was the lesson. I hope you have understood this lesson. Wish you a very happy learning. If you have liked my video, do tell your friends. Do like, share and subscribe the video. Let it reach to the students who actually need the help. Thank you and wish you a very happy learning and happy scoring in your exams. Love you. God bless you. Thank you.